Hey everyone, welcome to the Kentico Rocks podcast. This is the podcast about everything Kentico, Kentico EMS, Kentico Content, .NET, and Azure. This is actually episode number 25. We have a little bit of a special situation here where we are literally 15 minutes after the closing keynote of Kentico Connection 2019 in Denver. And luckily enough, I have a very special guest with me, Michael Kinkaid.
Hey Brian, thanks for inviting me here to your podcast. Really grateful to be on.
Happy to have you, man. Michael, tell the people, what do you do at your company and what is your company?
Yeah, so I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Reason One. We're a digital agency based in Toronto, Charleston, and we got a few people in Ireland as well. So.
Yeah, and he also happens to be a Kentico MVP and a pretty good darn friend of mine that I've known for many years.
Thank you very much.
Yep. So we thought we would give you a little insight, maybe some recap into what has happened in the last 48 hours. My first comment is it's been a freaking blur. It's kind of ridiculous how much has happened. But, we'll tell you what happened, what we learned, things to look forward to. And so we'll just get started. Michael, what did you think of the keynote in the first day?
I thought it was great. I think, getting more insight into 2020 with Kentico EMS, where that's going. The logo was fantastic.
Yes,
if you haven't seen it, you got to go online and see the Phoenix. But yeah, that was, David and Mikhail always do a really good job of kind of letting us know where they're going with the platform. And then obviously, everyone knows Kentico Cloud's being rebranded to Kontent, them showing us where that platform's going, the focus on the content editor and some of those new features I thought was really good, really insightful.
Right. And I always appreciate when Peter Palace gets up and actually kind of really makes it total transparent to what the vision and mission is for Kentico each year. He talked about maturity levels in the digital experience or digital management world, and did a pretty good job of saying when Kentico EMS is the right tool and when Kentico Content is the right tool.
Yeah, I think that certainly helps clearing up the messaging and kind of making it more clear as to what situations would be good for which platform. So.
And then it was kind of funny, there were two Martins who got up and talked about Kentico Content, and I think even made the joke that if you're not sure who someone is at Kentico, you're pretty safe if you just say, "Hey Martin, how's it going?"
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, apparently there's many of them, and yes, there is from our experience of being over there. But then after the keynote, we really kind of got into the session breakouts. As usual, there is the technical side and the business side. I bounced back and forth. I don't know if you stayed in technical.
I think I was First day was mainly technical. Second day more business. I think once I saw the agenda, Sean Wright. He had one of the early technical sessions on MVC. I really, really wanted to attend that because I've been following his blog posts on his sort of MVC Kentico design patterns. So I thought that was a really good one. It was good to see that the room was full there.
Yeah, I was in there too, and it was amazing how many people were holding up their phones taking pictures of his code samples.
It's always a good sign when the phone goes up.
Yeah, and he did promise that he would publish those slides probably on his blog or something like that. But yeah, Sean does a great job. Actually, it was the first time I got to meet him in person.
Yep.
Even though he told me he's been working with Kentico since version 1.7.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, really good content there from him.
Yeah. After that, I think that I bounced to the business side, although I'm not quite sure. But I'm looking just as a reminder. Yeah. No, I forgot. I actually had a customer meeting at that time. So basically,
you had a partner executive session.
That actually happened right around noon, which would be yesterday, and it went for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Kentico and Peter Palace kind of showed the Kentico partners the future of some of the licensing updates that are coming to attempt to give customers a little bit more flexibility and partners some more flexibility. It was an honest discussion. I think there was reactions, both positive and negative, we'll be honest, to it.
Yeah.
But that is, anytime there's change, I think you're going to get that with different agencies around the world.
Yeah, but that's good that, they're reaching out to those partners and doing, a round table and getting that feedback before they move forward with things. So.
Yep, that is why we have liked working with Kentico for all these years, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And then later in the day, I do think that someone had a talk right before me.
Yeah, it might have been me, and I apologize now if I may have added into a bit of your time, but I don't think I did. No, I think I ended it pretty much on the nose.
You did, but were you happy with how the talk went? And maybe tell everyone at home that's listening what was it about?
Yeah, I was happy. So the talk was, we actually had merged about a year ago. So Reason One is a new company, and it was a talk that kind of gave some insight into the merger process. And then at some point, obviously, we needed a new website, and that led to the age-old question of, well, what's the right approach? Is it an all-in-one platform, or is it more something like content as a service. So the case study really just kind of gave a look under the hood as to the thinking process behind why we ultimately went with content, and also just had a lot of funny images and weird videos, because that's kind of like the sort of thing that I like to do. But I was eager to get my talk out of the way, because following my talk was yours, which was great. Do you want to tell people what your talk was about?
Sure. It was a little bit of a challenge, but I tried to speak to both the business and technical side in terms of the best of both worlds is what I called it. The idea there was that making sites today that make both groups happy, our digital marketing teams and our technical development teams, they don't always have the same goals in alignment with trying to make that project that comes in, under budget, is SEO optimized, and has the best technology possible. Those three things don't, you can't always have all three in the triangle. It was good. I actually also then talked about how there's a possible solution where maybe some server-side rendering of React with Kentico EMS is possible, and then allows our front-end teams to work fully in React in VS Code and really not even know that much about Kentico's back-end, but still deliver an SEO-optimized page. So
that was cool to see. I think that's definitely a bit of a differentiator this year, is more conversation around things like static site generators, Gatsby, React.
Yes.
You're looking at React.js.net, like to actually see that sort of tooling coming in, I think is healthy for the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think it was really cool because both Michael and I, we were able to have the whole audience for the whole conference in one room. So there's probably about 100 people in the room for both sessions, which is always kind of nice. And then right after that, they kicked us out, basically, and we had to head to the social event that night, which was at the
Denver Museum of Nature and Science, I think, or something. Yeah. Obviously, we weren't there for either nature or science. To be honest.
I think it was more food and drink. Is probably the reason.
Combined with some virtual reality, which was an interesting thing to do after a few beers. But
the conversation was great. I mean, it went pretty long. There was a really good attendance, as there usually is at a Kentico Connections event. Pretty pleased. And honestly, that's one of my favorite aspects of these conferences, is being able to meet people who work with Kentico, end clients, partners, developers, the Kentico team themselves in person, and to have that networking opportunity. I mean, that's honestly one of my favorite things about these conferences.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I've been to Connections 404, whatever you want to call it, for Roadshow for many, many years. And meeting up with other partners and understanding how they're using Kentico and maybe what challenges they're having with projects, or just the way technology is evolving. I think it's almost like a therapy session. It really it's a good thing to do. So, and then to your point, just seeing people using the technology in new ways. The session on IoT with Peter Passenger, I thought was really cool, where they had IoT devices set up. They give somebody a little tag they wore around their neck. That person walked around this made up kind of museum, and content was just appearing on their iPad on the fly. It was great. It was so good. And seeing that, just as a use case for content in the cloud just makes a lot more sense. It's not just about a website. It can be in the moment, on premise, in a shop, you name it. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah. And I think that's a good summary of day one. We should probably get to day two. One of my favorite things was the fact that they started the conference a little later in the morning, which gave us a chance to recover a little bit from the evening's activities. But honestly, that was probably my second really bright spot. Is Merrick and the Kentico team gave a good, very deep dive presentation on .NET Standard, .NET Core, where Kentico is going with EMS, how we're going to get there. It was the first sort of set of details that they revealed publicly about the strategy where Kentico 2020 is something that we'll be able to do .NET Core.
Right, yeah. And that's great to get that level of insight, I think, from the platform, because other platforms are either mulling over that journey right now and haven't been very clear as to where they're going, whereas I think the Kentico community, we're really well informed with ultimately where they're going and how they're going to get there.
Yep. And I definitely put the pressure on that team that, it'd be even more awesome if we could get maybe some of those NuGet packages ahead of the full flagship release. And Michael Kinkaid did reply on Twitter that said, an alpha may be out there before that. So, I mean, our staff is so excited to get to .NET Core because we feel like then it's best in class, best possible solution in the .NET world. And actually what they did say during that session was they're really going to probably target .NET 5.
Yeah, that's smart. It makes sense to do that.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So if you're grumbling about MVC 5, you don't have to grumble too much longer.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think another thing on the second day, which I thought was good to see, was the actual session on improving your content strategy by Michael Andrews, who's like a content strategy evangelist. Mm-hmm. So there was an actual dedicated session just on content strategy itself, and how agencies and clients need to be thinking about that as a core area of concern early on projects. Like that was good to see in the business track, and you could tell a lot of people were interested in the room, seeing as it really ties in nicely with the sort of the strategy and the positioning of Kentico Content as the right sort of tool for that.
Yep.
So that was a session I quite enjoyed.
Yep. And then right after that was a really good idea by Kentico. They kind of broke away from your traditional kind of session lecture style and got into roundtables, where they had a really big room at the venue, and we'll talk about the venue in a little bit. Probably they had, 20 different tables almost, with really good attendance. I mean, I would say most of those tables were full. All of the different topics were at a table. Did you have a topic?
I did. My topic was, how do we ensure that digital projects are actually successful? Mm-hmm. And it was good because I had a mix of agency people and, actual customers of Kentico. And it turned into quite a therapy session where, agencies were kind of, saying, oh, it's the customer's the issue. And likewise, the customer was pointing out, challenges that they have with the agencies. So I think it was a good session. Ultimately, what we walked out of it was really just the insight that people and the importance of having, the right sort of dynamic between those two teams is ultimately what leads to success. Never mind the technology or the way in which you actually go about delivering agile waterfall. It's ultimately it's about those people relationships. Yep. So again, another example of a good conversation related to the world of Kentico, but it was broader than just Kentico. Mm-hmm. So, what about yourself? Did you have a session?
So I didn't have a roundtable, but what I did was I watched basically what tables maybe had not a ton of conversation, and I tried to spur some. So I actually ended up at the integrations for Kentico Content table, and it turned out that 2 minutes later, like 4 more people sat down. So that table filled up right away too. And we had a really good discussion about what, as a community, can developers do to integrate Kentico Content with other systems. What needs are there? What styles we are? And then actually, what's a super important aspect of that is how do we keep it maintained and up to date so that's not just a community thing that kind of isn't supported. It's actually like a flagship integration for Kentico Content. And actually the Kentico Content team had a lot to say about that. They're going to look to do some things that I'm not sure we can say right now, but look for more and more information about integrations with Kentico Content. Hopefully it's going to be more than just custom elements, right? There might be some other things that come out.
Yeah, that would be really good to see. Then after that, I wasn't able to attend your session. I went to Andre Bluesnay's one on Gatsby.
Yep, I would have done the same if I could have.
Just because we were using it, and that was a full room. That was a lot of people who were interested to understand more about how they can go about using a static site approach with Kentico Content. Right. So that was again a lot of phones up, a lot of taking pictures of the slides. Nice. But you were at a session. Was it a panel?
It was a panel. But before we get to that, if you're interested in Gatsby and Andre's ability to show it off, he actually has his own little Twitch show that we should plug, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's called The Boring Kentico Show. And he's going to work on the title of that a little bit. But if you're interested, you can, I believe it's on DevNet as a link, and probably just use some Google searching to find The Boring Kentico Show. And you can watch him actually, I think he works with one of the people from Gatsby, and they spin up a site and go through the source plugin that Kentico Content has. That's the magic that allows GraphQL to talk to Kentico Content Delivery API.
Yeah, it's really good to see how much that community is developing, both in terms of the activity on GitHub, blog posts as well from the community. Shout out to Richard Shackleton for some of his blog posts on Gatsby. Right, he's got a good one recently on the working with the schema, which our team is kind of looking at as well. So we've had issues there. So, that community is growing. And actually timely, because I believe Matt Neal just published an article on his blog about moving away from his last... his blogs from... Is it gone from .NET over to... Yeah, to Gatsby, basically. Over to Gatsby? Yeah, so there's another set of information to grab. But yeah, I wish I could have been there, but I actually myself I was presenting in the other track on the business side, and there was 4 of us that got up, along with Eric Webb as a moderator. So Eric Webb from Kentico, myself, Dave Conder from Blue Modus, Dean D'Orazio from Wakefly, and Richard Brulink from Kentico as well.
And we talked to the business side of the conference attendees, and in terms of like, what does it mean to maybe sell or service or go after or work with enterprise organizations versus mid-market organizations, which was kind of a general theme throughout the conference in the last couple of days. Yeah. And it was interesting. We were up there, kind of talked as a panel for about 45 minutes, got a couple of questions from the crowds. I thought we did well, and I think people were appreciative of our insights into where those things are.
That's cool.
Because it's I think the cool thing is we represented all different regions of North America in the last couple of days, and there's a lot of different markets out there that work in different ways.
Yeah. Did you all agree? Was it
it was really funny.
Spicy?
There was a slight, maybe possible battle royale that almost happened between Dave and myself.
Nice.
About getting executive buy-in. He honestly had a great answer. In terms of, he said that basically one successful way is to have very quick iterations of MVP deliverables to get quick wins, to bite small sides, to show value immediately as fast as possible. Yeah. And my point was, I get that, but I'm, in my experience, showing an executive board or leadership team a roadmap, not just a 6-month project, but here's what we can do in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, if we follow this and stay together. I like that style because it kind of shows that we can have a vision and have a partnership with our clients. But there's many ways to do it.
No, sorry I missed that one.
That's okay. Like it's good. That's okay. And then I had double duty, actually. I had to run across the street to the other building and got to have the fun ability of presenting with my client, ASM, the American Society of Microbiology, with Courtney Rears. She talked about how they brought a content model to us, and we implemented a Kentico MVC site in Kentico 12, and basically we ran through the process, had some funny war stories of basically having to deliver it very quickly, and how Kentico allowed us to do that, and I think it went over well. It was a packed room, actually.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was at the American Disability Act and WCAG session, which is good to see a talk on accessibility, and interesting specifically with regards to ADA, because where we are in Toronto, we're looking more at AODA, so that was good to see, and it was sharing some insight on some testing tools and approaches for remediation. If you happen to find yourself with a site that's just not going to cut it from an accessibility perspective, and you find yourself you need to actually act. So that was a good session. Right.
And I tell you guys, if you need any help with accessibility, Reason One knows their stuff. I'm just going to plug them for that. They do some really good work in that space.
Yeah, shout out to our accessibility team, Riot, Reason One accessibility team. So they
cool.
Should we stay informed?
Yep. And then we should probably get to the closing keynote. It was actually really cool that Kentico brought in a pretty big external speaker.
Yeah, Mark Brennan from Forrester, who's an analyst. So he was there to talk about controversial title. It's the end of web CMS, and I feel fine. And yes, he did walk into the REM track. But yeah, there was a lot of information in that session to unpack. He brought a lot of the Forrester data for us to see, and really was shining a light on moving forward with more of sort of like an agile CMS approach and microservice approach to ultimately be able to service clients better. So there was good information.
And that it was still packed for the closing. I was happy that people stuck around. That was pretty good. And actually, in general, the conference here in Denver has been pretty amazing. The venue has been pretty spectacular. As we're talking to you guys, we're on the 38th floor of the Pinnacle Club, and there's nothing but wall-to-wall windows.
Yep, mountains. For the first time in Denver, I can see the mountains.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful sunny day. So if you didn't make it, we definitely wish you were here. I mean, Michael, what would be one thing you'd say is like something you learned in the last 2 days that you can take away back home to the staff, to the team?
I think it is the momentum around, applications and frameworks like Gatsby and React. It's like a validation of the approach that we're looking into. And I'm also really excited just at the quality of the branding, to be honest, of Kontent. There's like a level now of maturity, I think, in Kentico's sort of approach and their messaging, which I think is really going to help in terms of being able to sort of connect with clients for future projects.
Yep. Yeah, for me, I think it's something that was announced today or yesterday. Basically, Kentico has implemented an integration between Kentico EMS and Kentico Kontent that allows you to kind of join the products together in a way that you haven't been able to before. And I heard a couple use cases that made me think twice, where before I was like, well, I'm not sure how we would do that.
Yeah.
But some of the use cases they explained, I'm like, okay, maybe it's opening the eyes a little bit. So I'm going to bring that back to the team. We're going to noodle that over and see what would make sense there. And if you're curious about that, you can find information on the Kontent, their latest blog post. They launched
I think
live
Martin
today.
has built a module for DNS. Yeah,
So it's really cool. But honestly, we've got a happy hour to get to.
I know we've got to get a cocktail, Brian.
I'm ready for that.
Right,
It's been a crazy last 48 hours. I want to thank you for joining me in the podcast
cheers.
today.
Thanks, Brian.
And we'll talk to you all next time. This has been Kentico Rocks episode number 25.